Hello everyone, good news! During this video, we'll be finishing off the Therizinosaurus project. Took a little longer than expected, but, well, when you start putting in feathers in one by one as well as hairs, things tend to take a little longer. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video!
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, and thank you for tuning into Moose Motion. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing if you're new, and be sure you have your post notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new content. Anyway, thank you for your support, it's highly appreciated.
So to start things off here, I'm going to give you a brief description as to what we're going to be covering during this video. It's going to be a combination of dinosaur facts as well as how to make your armature Therizinosaurus. Now, basically what we're starting off here is, well, I kind of off camera was working with a lot of the joints and parts that will be moving during the stop motion processes, and, well, making them essentially almost break, and if they didn't pass, well, then obviously this is where the small repairs coming in, basically to avoid future problems during animating, because, well, having to fix your dolls during on-camera moments is pretty stressful, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. We're also going to finish off the lower jaw, which I didn't finish last time, which is part of the skeleton, obviously, which I'm going to make, well, some quick little reinforcement gussets for the actual big hinge for later on. Came up with slightly beefier design than some of my previous ones, and, well, be honest, this is probably going to hold up a lot more than some of the other ones like the Wendigo. That jaw has caused me a little bit of grief in the past, so I wanted to take a little bit of extra time during this video to make sure that I wasn't going to have that same problem. Instead of doing two separate pins like I did with the Wendigo, in this case I'm just going to do one big central pin that is basically attached to one big beefy hinge at the bottom of the jaw. Then we're going to add a little bit of clay to make sure that that beak sticks through once the plasticine layers are added on, and then we're going to move on to some other steps during the process, or during the video I should say, and I will give you some interesting Therizinosaurus facts. An order of baked Therizinosaur coming right up. Now, one thing I should mention before you, the viewer, get too far into the, well, viewing of this video, you should probably maybe pause and then come back. First watch the first one, because that one I cover a whole lot of Therizinosaurus facts, because, well, I honestly don't have as many as I did last time, and the vast majority of the interesting facts are on that video. However, the ones that I wasn't able to actually make time for, we'll be covering during this, well, segment of the project. As well, I should probably give a shout out to Mr. Epic Tiger HD, who was able to spot, well, Milton the Moose in one of my previous videos, and unfortunately I kind of forgot to mention that last time because, well, I was ranting about dinosaurs a little too much, so my apologies, Mr. Tiger, and, well, for all of you newer subscribers and other viewers, be sure to keep your eyes peeled for Milton the Moose. He's also spotted in this video as well as the previous Therizinosaurus video, and if you timestamp correctly what time he shows up, you will get a shout out in the corresponding video, well, how-to video. I must say, as long as I don't get too sidetracked by interesting dinosaur facts. Anyway, speaking of interesting dinosaur facts, seeing how I'm working on the lower jaw here, which you've obviously seen how it's made, which is clearly just a piece of armature wire attached to that big beefy hinge like I previously stated, and it's got a, well, layer of oven-baked clay to basically make sure that it's not actually going to go anywhere. Now, some interesting facts about the skull and teeth of the Therizinosaurus. Now, unfortunately, there isn't actually a whole lot to cover on interesting facts about the actual skull, due to the fact that we actually don't really have a full specimen of the Therizinosaurus skull in the first place. Now, that being said, we do have some fragmentary parts of it, which I believe include the back of the skull, some parts of the lower jaw, and upper jaw. So based off those fragmentary remains, we've essentially made a estimation that it probably looked a lot like its long-lost relatives or North American cousins, the Northstranus. So basically, we've kind of done some reconstructive surgery, but that being said, we're still not entirely sure what this dinosaur looked like. However, based off the fragmentary remains that we were able to find of the Therizinosaurus, we were able to make some, well, accurate interpretations of what this dinosaur's behavior would have been. Based off the leaf-shaped teeth, it's most likely that it would have been an herbivore and probably ate plants. That being said, I believe there are some speculations out there being it been a little bit more omnivorous and perhaps ate small crabs and various other things, which are also implied for other various dinosaurs in this nature. The hadrosaur is a good example of this because recent studies have found coprolite remains, which coprolite means fossilized poop, Basically, in this fossilized poop, they found little bits of crab, so therefore the actual tie between herbivorous dinosaurs is perhaps a little more loose than we thought. Good example of this is deers in nature were, well, known to actually eat small baby animals, so yeah, things are a little more savage than you thought, and there's lots of evidence of that on YouTube, but yeah, viewer discretion is advised if you're gonna go look that stuff up. Now I'm gonna give you some quick tips on armature dolls. Now, the idea for a lot of the plasticine is you wanna add it in like various different layers of muscle, making your overall doll a little bit more accurate in appearance. Now, what I'm doing at the moment is basically making sure that all these little claws aren't going to be going anywhere, so I'm removing every single little one and just adding a little bit of modeling glue inside the actual holes where the armature wire rests, and then just making sure that they're nicely reinforced and they're not going to be going anywhere and breaking off constantly, because that's just no fun. And seeing how we're on the subject of big beefy claws and arms, I may as well give you some interesting facts about those for this dinosaur. As previously stated in the last video that I made about the Therizinosaurus, the claws were the biggest, well, known specimen of any known animal found to this date. And, well, to back those big beefy claws up, it had some very big, powerful arms. Now, if you look up the actual arm bone structure, this thing obviously had some rather large muscle attachments, so these things were definitely not weak, and probably very good at pulling down tree branches and various other things. And given their overall length, they were massive on top of it. Like, the arms were 8 feet long, or 8.5 feet long, on top of the 1.5 meter long claws. Like, they were just incredibly massive. This is a very, very strange creature, and it's a little sad that they've kind of gone extinct, because I would very much like to actually see one. But I at least have some sculpting capabilities and, well, can make any dinosaur that I so please. Now, despite the fact that these arms were rather large and powerful with large claws to boot, they are most likely not exactly used as weapons, unfortunately. As cool as that would be, they're probably a better example of convergent evolution, which essentially means where two or more species share similar traits, but not due to a common ancestor. Now, there are many different examples of convergent evolution in nature, but we're going to stick to, well, what's more relevant to the Therizinosaurus here. It's thought that this species of dinosaur filled in a similar niche to what is known as the giant ground sloth, or properly known as the megatherium, which is also known for its rather large claws and, well, used them for pulling in giant, well, branches for eating plants. So it's thought that the Therizinosaurs basically did the same thing. And there's also some predictions out there in stating that, well, basically these claws could have also been partially used as a display structure. And, well, as far as not being entirely used as weapons, I guarantee that, yeah, as previously stated in the other video, it would have been pretty terrifying, and if I was a big predator, I definitely would be having some second thoughts about messing with this thing. Seeing how I'm working on the, well, feet of the dinosaur here at the moment, there's some interesting facts about it that I should probably cover, and first up and foremost, those ones that I've made on this dinosaur technically aren't very scientifically accurate, given that the dew claw, or the backwards facing claw, is completely backwards and touching the ground. Now, I did this basically because I plan on using this doll for stop motion purposes and wanted that basically for extra balance. Now, that being said, the Therizinosaurus' fourth toe did actually touch the ground, just not in the same manner that I have interpreted it. Now, it did use it for extra balance, yes, but it was more or less positioned on the actual side of the foot. And another good example of this is, well, the Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, which also has a dew claw that is apparently touching the ground, and apparently my other Spinosaurus sculpture there isn't exactly too accurate. And if you'd like to perhaps see more of my dinosaur content once you're done this video, there's lots of links in the post description below involving Sue the T-Rex in the background, my Spinosaurus, along with a few cartoons that I've made of them, but that's going back a few years, and unfortunately they're just way too large on the doll scale to actually be really practical for stop motion, which is why I'm making this Therizinosaurus much smaller than them. Now, given the fact that I've actually made some dinosaur content in the past, this stuff that I've been doing lately has kind of shifted in a different direction and has been a little bit more on the side of giving more scientifically accurate facts about them, along with trying to make a, well, scientifically accurate sculpture. Now, that being said, I am fairly new at all this. I haven't really been doing a whole lot of dinosaur fact commentary for quite some time, and to be honest, I used to be really into them when I was much younger, and I've only been studying dinosaurs for the past, like, 3 or 4 months. So there's going to be a bit of a learning curve here, but hopefully some of you can understand that I'm not exactly perhaps up to date on some of this stuff, and if there's anything that I perhaps missed, be sure to correct me along the way, and, well, let's learn together and build a little dinosaur community where we can all make little stop-motion dinosaurs. It would be pretty cool. I've had some viewers in the past copy my Spinosaurus, and that definitely was a very rewarding experience, so be sure to grab some clay and, well, sculpt some dinosaurs along with me, and then if you decide to bring them to life, that would be definitely cool, and tag me in it, because I would love to see that, because, well, unfortunately, this is about as close as we're going to get to probably seeing dinosaurs in real life. Now, along with this learning curve that's obviously to be a little bit expected here, I did some fact-checking about the genus of the Therizinosaur, which I mentioned in my previous video that the Therizinosaur day is technically not an active genus. However, that's not entirely true, but I'm sure this fact is. The saying must be true. All dinosaurs do go to heaven. Now, I checked it up on Google. Apparently, the Therizinosaur day is still an active name, I think, but it's a bit of a confusing mess considering this thing was mistaken as a turtle at the start. And yeah, if you'd like to learn more about the Therizinosaurus, be sure to go check out the first video on it, and well, yeah. If someone can correct me on the genus and a little bit more about the family of this thing, it would be kind of nice, because it's a bit of a confusing mess, to be honest. Now we're going to shift over some commentary about how to make feathers on your dinosaur, which unfortunately is the reason I'm a little bit behind schedule on this thing, because, well, putting in feathers one by one was a lot more of a tedious process than I initially anticipated. First off and foremost, I would like to start by saying that no birds were harmed in the making of this video. I just like to feed them and, well, just decided to go outside and collect some feathers. That way, well, they look as accurate as possible. Because technically birds are dinosaurs, but not all dinosaurs are birds. But that being said, these types of feathers are technically not as scientifically accurate, but it's as close as I'm going to really get. So after you're done sourcing out your feathers, essentially what you want to do is then trim them down one by one and make them the appropriate length according to your doll size, and then glue the tips, poking in little holes inside the plasticine. Now, the glue isn't necessary, but it does actually help them stay a little bit more. It's not a guarantee, but it's basically a lot better than nothing. So that's why I generally put just a little bit of super glue on the tip of the wings to ensure that they're actually not going to be falling off and moving around nearly as much. So basically, that's the process. You gotta trim them one by one, make little pinholes for them to go inside, and then just poke them in. In theory, it sounds very easy, but unfortunately during the actual process, I found it to be quite tedious and took way longer and lost a lot of sleep due to it. So, if you appreciate, well, all the effort that goes into making the content and the sculptures, be sure to hit that like button and perhaps leave a comment below what you think of the dinosaur once we're finished, because we're getting close to the end here, because we're now moving on to, well, some fuzz, which is technically probably a more accurate interpretation for feathers on dinosaurs. Now, unfortunately, the birds in my backyard weren't willing enough to, well, donate more feathers to the cause, because I'm pretty sure the feathers on the neck, where it's a small, sort of fuzzy, non-flying feathers, they're probably the most accurate interpretation for dinosaurs. And seeing how we're on the topic of scientifically accurate interpretations, I may as well cover this, which happened a few clips ago. I removed the cheeks and added cheeks, but the reason that I added cheeks was because technically dinosaurs, most herbivorous dinosaurs, probably did have some sort of cheeks to help sure that the food wasn't going to be constantly falling out of their mouth while they were eating, but unfortunately for the stop motion process, it was just, well, impractical. Now it is time to finish off a couple finishing touches and release this dinosaur into the wild. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end of the video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and be sure to subscribe if you're new. Anyway, that's enough from me. Till next time, take it easy.